The council is watching us.
I know. We must be careful.
Stay close to me.
Always.
The colony world of Greyline sat at the far edge of known space, where maps ended and silence began. It was a quiet place with thin skies and long shadows, built by humans who had nowhere else to go. Alien trade ships passed by but rarely stopped, and when they did, humans bowed their heads and kept their voices low. In the wider galaxy, humans were not feared or respected. They were seen as workers, traders, and useful hands, nothing more. No empire worried about human anger, because no one believed humans could matter. Ethan Hale was one of those humans. He lived in a small metal home near the dry landing fields. His life was simple and heavy, filled with work and silence. He fixed machines, repaired old systems, and asked for nothing. Ethan was poor but calm. He did not dream of power or stars. He believed survival was enough. That belief ended the day the alien council ship arrived. The ship blocked out the sky, casting a dark shadow over the colony. Its surface was smooth and cold, far beyond human technology. Everyone knew what it meant. The colony owed protection taxes it could not pay. The alien empires had decided Greyline was no longer worth saving. The council offered one option: a political marriage, a symbolic bond between a human and an alien woman of importance. If the colony agreed, Greyline would live. If not, the world would be erased quietly. No one wanted the marriage. No one wanted to be tied to alien politics. But no one could refuse. Ethan volunteered, not because he was brave, but because he was tired of watching people suffer. The council accepted him without comment. To them, a human was replaceable. The bride arrived days later. She was quiet, tall, and wrapped in silver cloth. Her skin held a soft glow, not human, not harsh. Her name was Alira. She spoke little and looked at nothing for long. The council said she was a noble in exile. Nothing more, nothing less. The ceremony was short and cold. No joy, no celebration. Just words spoken in languages Ethan barely understood. When it ended, the crowd scattered. Guards escorted the couple to a private chamber. The door sealed behind them. Silence filled the room. Ethan stood awkwardly near the entrance, unsure what to do. This marriage was meant to be symbolic. No love, no power, just survival. He told himself that once the night passed, life would return to normal. The galaxy would forget him again. Alira turned her back to him slowly. The soft light around her dimmed. When the guards outside stepped away, she spoke for the first time without witnesses. "I cannot touch you. I am a queen." The words were calm, but heavy. They did not sound like pride. They sounded like law. Ethan froze. He thought he misheard. She turned. Her eyes were no longer soft. They burned with ancient authority. The air in the room felt thick, hard to breathe, as if space itself listened to her voice. Outside the chamber, unseen guards moved. Ethan heard metal touch floor. A sound like kneeling. Fear crawled into his chest. Not panic, but understanding. This was no refugee. No fallen noble. Ethan looked at the woman he had married and saw power that did not belong on the edge of space. Alira spoke again, quieter now. "You were chosen because no one would suspect you." She stepped away, placing distance between them. Her posture straightened, not as a bride, but as a ruler. Ethan's thoughts raced. If she was a queen, then enemies would follow. If enemies followed, the colony was in danger. He realized the truth in pieces. He had not married safety. He had married a storm. Outside, the guards remained silent and still, waiting for orders that could change worlds. Ethan felt small, smaller than he ever had. The galaxy believed humans were weak, forgettable, harmless. But tonight, on a forgotten world at the edge of everything, a forgotten human had married the ruler of an ancient alien empire, and nothing would ever be simple again. If you enjoy slow mystery and human-focused sci-fi stories like this, gently consider subscribing to the channel so you do not miss what happens next. Queen Alira did not speak all at once. She moved slowly across the chamber, as if the walls themselves were listening. The lights dimmed at her presence, responding to something far older than human design. Ethan remained still. Every instinct told him to ask questions, to demand answers, but something in her silence warned him to listen first. "I did not lie to you." Illyra said calmly. I only allowed you to believe less than the truth. She stood near the window that looked out at the thin sky of Greyline. Stars shimmered beyond the weak atmosphere. Her reflection in the glass looked less like a bride and more like a memory of power. My empire was called the Aurelian Throne, she said. It ruled across hundreds of systems before humans learned to leave their sun. Ethan's breath caught. He had heard stories, whispers traded by alien merchants, a vanished empire that once terrified the galaxy. The galaxy feared us, Illyra continued, not for our weapons, but for our unity. She turned toward him. My bloodline was hunted when the throne fell. Ethan understood then. This was not exile. This was survival. Her enemies did not simply want her dead. They wanted the idea of her erased. No queen meant no claim, no return, no revenge. They hunt the last queen, Illyra said. They hunt me. Ethan swallowed. And you came here, he said quietly. Yes, she replied. Because here, they would never look. She explained the ancient law slowly. A law older than most civilizations still alive. A law written after countless wars. No crowned queen could be executed if bonded to a human. Not attacked. Not erased. Not even imprisoned. Humans were classified as politically insignificant. Too scattered, too divided, too young. Bonding with one carried no strategic value. That law saved millions once, Illyra said. Now it protects me. Ethan felt anger rise. So I am a shield, he said. A legal trick. Illyra did not deny it. At first, she said honestly. The honesty surprised him more than any lie would have. He looked down at his hands, rough from labor and grease. These hands were now part of an ancient contract written in blood and stars. You trusted a human, Ethan said. What? Illyra was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. Because humans are invisible, she said, and because you are dangerous in ways the galaxy refuses to see. Ethan frowned. We are weak, he said. That is what everyone says. Illyra stepped closer. No, she replied. You are underestimated. She explained what ancient species feared. Humans adapted faster than logic predicted. They bonded emotionally under pressure. They survived losses that would break older races. You turned pain into strength, Illyra said. You turned fear into action. She admitted something that shook Ethan. Several ancient councils had debated eliminating humanity long ago. Not because humans were strong, but because humans learned too quickly. You feel deeply, Illyra said, and still move forward. Ethan did not know how to respond. No alien had ever spoken of humans like that. He thought of Greyline, of broken machines fixed with scrap, of families surviving with hope instead of power. You chose me because I am nothing, Ethan said. I chose you because you are human, Illyra corrected. For a moment, the weight between them shifted. This marriage was no longer only survival. It was strategy, fear, and something neither of them fully named. Then the air changed. A low hum vibrated through the chamber walls, too soft to be heard by most humans. But Illyra stiffened instantly. Her eyes flashed with cold light. They found us, she said. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Who? My enemies, Illyra replied. Multiple fleets. She moved to a console hidden behind the wall. Her hands danced across alien symbols. Data spilled into the air as glowing shapes. Ethan could not understand the numbers, but he understood her expression. They tracked a bond, she said. They always do. Ethan looked toward the sky. The quiet stars no longer felt distant. They felt hungry. How much time? He asked. Illyra paused. Enough to choose, she said. Choose what? Whether Greyline becomes a battlefield, she replied, or a grave. Outside, the colony slept unaware. Children dreaming, workers resting. No one knew that fleets capable of erasing worlds were turning toward them. Ethan felt fear. But beneath it, something else stirred. A stubborn refusal to break. The galaxy believed humans were shields, disposable and weak. The enemy fleets moved closer, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The first sign of the attack did not come from the sky. It came from silence. Greyline was never loud, But that night the usual hum of machines faded completely. Power grids flickered, then died. Lights across the colony blinked out one by one. Ethan felt it before he saw it. A pressure behind the eyes. A warning deep in the chest. Aelira stood still beside him, her head slightly tilted. "They are already here," she said softly. Then the screams began. Shapes moved between buildings, fast and blurred. Alien assassins, sleek and dark, their armor bending light. Psychic soldiers walked behind them, eyes glowing faintly, minds reaching outward like claws. Humans ran. Families poured into the streets, shouting names, clutching children. Panic spread faster than fire. Energy weapons flashed, cutting through walls like paper. One strike collapsed a storage dome. Another burned the air itself, leaving nothing behind. Ethan forced himself to breathe. Fear tried to lock his legs, but he did not run. He remembered Aelira's words. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Get inside, Ethan shouted, his voice rough but steady. Basements, tunnels, anywhere with cover. Some people froze. Others listened. When they saw Ethan moving toward danger instead of away from it, they followed. Ethan grabbed a broken comm unit, slammed it against a power node. Static filled the channel, but it worked. "All workers," he said, "use maintenance paths, not main roads." He pulled old maps from memory. Greyline was weak, but it was human-built, full of shortcuts, dead ends, and narrow spaces. The assassins moved with precision, too precise. They expected panic, not patterns. Humans blocked streets with cargo crates, collapsed walkways on purpose, led attackers into tight corridors where numbers meant nothing. Someone detonated a fuel cell too early. The blast failed to kill an assassin, but it blinded one. That was enough. Another group used mirrors and scrap metal to confuse psychic sight. It should not have worked, but it did. Aelira watched from the shadows. Her instinct screamed to take command, to unleash power that could end this quickly. She did not move. She watched humans fight without orders, without shields, without hope of rescue. They shouted warnings to strangers, pulled wounded back under fire, shared weapons without hesitation. One assassin cut down 3 humans before falling. Another retreated when surrounded by workers armed with tools and rage. The psychic soldiers hesitated. Human emotions flooded the field, chaotic and loud. Fear, anger, love, grief. It disrupted their focus. Ethan moved constantly, never staying in one place, redirecting groups, adapting plans as buildings fell. When a psychic wave slammed into him, he staggered but did not drop. Pain flashed behind his eyes, but he pushed forward. He thought of the colony, of people who had already lost everything once. Slowly, something changed. The assassins began to pull back. Their strikes became less precise, their movements cautious. They had expected prey. They found resistance. A final explosion tore through the far landing field. Then silence returned, broken only by smoke and distant cries. Sensors across the colony went quiet. The attackers were gone. Ethan stood in the ruins, chest burning, hands shaking. Around him, humans gathered, wounded but standing. They had survived. Aelira stepped forward into the open, her expression unreadable, her mind racing. This should not have happened. By every galactic measure, Greyline should be ash. She looked at Ethan, at a human covered in dust and blood, giving quiet instructions, checking the injured, for the first time in centuries. Fear touched the Queen's heart. Not fear of enemies, fear of understanding. Humans were not weak. They were ignored. Later, when the colony slept in exhausted silence, Aelira entered Ethan's quarters alone. He turned, startled. She removed her crown slowly, deliberately. Then she knelt, not in ceremony, not in law, but in respect. Ethan stared, unable to speak. "You saved my people tonight," she said quietly, "and you did not even know they were yours yet." The queen of a fallen empire bowed before a human, and the galaxy, far away, remained unaware of the mistake it had made. The news did not spread like fire. It spread like fear. At first it was only broken signals, fragments of combat data leaking through trade routes, whispers shared between captains who trusted no one. A human colony had survived, not a fortress world. Not a military hub, but a forgotten settlement at the edge of space. The report sounded wrong. Elite alien assassins repelled. Psychic soldiers forced to retreat. Human civilians still alive. Most councils laughed. Humans were labor. Humans were numbers. Humans did not defeat trained forces. But then the second report arrived. Then the third. Different sources. Same result. Gray line still existed. Rumors began to change shape. A human did not just survive. A human protected someone important. The phrase appeared quietly at first, passed in low voices across star stations. A human protects the queen. That sentence caused laughter in young races, but among older species, it caused silence. Ancient councils called emergency gatherings, screens lit with symbols that had not been used in centuries. They searched old records, data buried under layers of forgotten wars. What they found made them uneasy. There was a pattern, clear and disturbing. Every empire that dismissed humans as weak, every species that ignored them as harmless, eventually collapsed. Not by human fleets, not by conquest, but by human presence. Trade systems changed. Alliances shifted. Wars became unpredictable. Humans adapted where others followed tradition. They learned faster than expected. They survived losses that should have ended them. One counselor spoke the words no one wanted to hear. Humans are not dangerous at the start. They become dangerous when pressure is applied. On Gray Line, Ethan felt none of this. He was busy helping rebuild, clearing rubble, fixing broken lines with tired hands. He did not feel like a symbol. He felt like a man who had survived one night too many. Alira watched the stars from a secure chamber. Ancient data floating before her. Images of old wars. Old decisions. She activated files sealed by bloodline authority. Records erased from common history. Ethan entered quietly. "What is happening?" he asked. Alira did not turn. "They are remembering," she said. She showed him the truth. Long before humans were considered weak, they were considered unknown. Ancient species had watched early humanity spread. Messy, emotional, divided, yet unstoppable. Humans failed, then adapted, then returned stronger. Councils feared that speed, so they erased humans from galactic maps, reduced their status, limited their reach. "Not to destroy you," Alira said, "but to slow you." Ethan stared at the data. He felt anger rise, then confusion. "We never noticed," he said. "That was the point," she replied. Ethan stepped back. This was too large, too heavy. He never wanted to matter. He never wanted destiny. "I am not a leader," he said. "I fix things." Alira turned to him. "And that is why this works," she said. She explained what the galaxy now saw. A human who did not seek power, who acted when needed, who inspired without command. "The galaxy does not fear your strength," Alira said. "It fears what happens when you care." Messages poured in from distant systems, some curious, some cautious, some afraid. Alien representatives requested contact, not with the Queen, but with the human. Ethan refused most of them. He felt the weight growing, a pressure behind every decision. That night, Alira made a choice. She summoned surviving allies. Broadcast channels opened across known space. Even enemy listeners tuned in. The Queen stood before the galaxy, crown restored, voice steady. "The bond is known," she said. "I will speak clearly." Silence followed. Even static seemed to pause. "For generations, humans were underestimated," she continued. "That mistake ends now." Ethan watched from the side, heart pounding. "This human did not protect me by law," Alira said. "He protected life by choice." She turned slightly, looking at Ethan. "He is no longer my shield," she said. "He is my equal." Across the galaxy, councils froze. Allies whispered. Enemies recalculated. A queen had declared a human equal, not as a symbol, but as a truth. Ethan felt the moment settle over him, like gravity changing direction. The galaxy had noticed, and nothing would ever be quiet again. The change did not happen with a speech or a battle. It happened quietly, across many small human worlds. Messages moved through old channels, trade routes, repair crews, family links. Human colonies that had never spoken now shared warnings and plans. For the first time, humans stopped acting alone. Greyline became a symbol without trying to be one. Not because it was strong, but because it survived. Human leaders gathered through unstable hollow links. Miners spoke to farmers. Engineers spoke to traders. No flags were raised. No crowns were offered. Only one question was asked again and again. How do we protect our people? Old Earth records were opened. Files untouched for generations. Wars humans had fought when they were weaker than their enemies. These doctrines were not about domination. They were about survival. Delay, deception, defense in depth. Humans remembered how to fight when outmatched. Ships were refitted with scrap and creativity. Civilian vessels learned formation flying. Communication codes changed daily. It was messy, unpolished, but alive. Alien observers noticed. At first they dismissed it. Humans building defenses instead of weapons. Training instead of threatening. Then they remembered the records. Several alien powers began helping quietly. A shipment delayed here. A sensor array adjusted there. No treaties were signed. No announcements made. They were afraid. Not of humans as they were, but of what humans might become if pushed. On Greyline, Ethan watched all of this with growing unease. He did not give orders. He did not command fleets. People simply asked him what he would do. That frightened him more than any assassin. "I am not a leader," he told Illyra one night. "I never wanted this." They stood together on a rebuilt platform overlooking the colony. Lights flickered back to life below. Illyra listened without interrupting. "You are not leading," she said. "You are reminding them who they are." Ethan shook his head. "They see more than I am." "They see what you choose," Illyra replied. She had changed since Greyline. Her voice softer when alone. Her presence less distant. Trust had grown where strategy once lived. And something warmer followed behind it. Illyra found herself watching Ethan when he worked. How he spoke to people without rank. How he listened more than he spoke. This was not how queens chose allies. And yet, it felt right. Across the stars, human coordination improved daily. Signals flowed faster. Responses became sharper. Enemy scouts began avoiding human space. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was unpredictable. The ancient enemy empire watched all of this in silence. They had ruled for ages by force and fear. They understood power, but not change. Humanity's rise disturbed their calculations. In a dark system far from trade lanes, ancient machines awakened. Systems that had not been powered since forgotten wars. Massive structures unfolded in silence, drawing energy from stars themselves. The weapon did not target fleets, or worlds, or species. It targeted possibility. Illyra sensed it before any sensor confirmed it. A cold echo through ancient bonds. She froze mid-sentence, her breath catching. Ethan noticed immediately. "What is it?" he asked. Illyra turned toward the stars, her expression unreadable, her voice barely steady. "They have chosen to end this," she said. Data streamed into the room. Energy signatures beyond anything humans had recorded. A weapon designed to erase entire regions of space. Not to conquer, but to reset. If activated, human unity would not matter. Alien alliances would not matter. Everything would be reduced to silence. Ethan felt the weight settle fully now. Not as fear, but as responsibility. The galaxy had noticed humanity and decided it was time to respond. Far away, the ancient weapon continued to charge, and the stars around it dimmed. The war began without warning. No declaration, no message. Space itself seemed to tear open. Enemy fleets emerged from folded darkness. Ships larger than cities, glowing with impossible energy. Human sensors screamed. Screens filled with red markers faster than minds could count. Against them stood human fleets. Refitted cargo ships, defensive platforms, mixed alien support vessels. They looked small, fragile, temporary. The first exchange was brutal. Enemy weapons bent physics. Human shields failed in seconds. Ships vanished, not exploded. Simply erased. Crews lost without sound. Fear spread through human lines. Some captains hesitated. Some prayed. Ethan stood on the command deck of a converted station. Hands clenched, eyes fixed on the chaos. "We cannot match them," a commander said, voice shaking. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then stop trying," he replied. He remembered old Earth history, battles where humans survived by refusing to fight the way enemies expected. "Break formation," he ordered. "Scatter." The command shocked many. Discipline broke. Human ships scattered like debris. Enemy targeting systems paused, confused. They were built for fleets, not swarms. Small human ships darted through debris fields, using planets, moons, and wreckage as cover, luring enemy fire away from colonies. Some human captains volunteered for impossible tasks, drawing fire, buying time. They did not call it sacrifice. They called it holding the line. Aelira stood at the center of Allied command, her presence steady, ancient. She activated powers she had sworn never to use again. Alien allies watched in awe as the queen of the fallen empire returned to war. Her commands cut through confusion. Her strategies bent enemy movements. She fought as a queen. Cold, precise, relentless. Ethan fought differently. He spoke directly to captains, engineers, civilians, encouraging improvisation, trust, shared purpose. Human ships began changing tactics mid-battle. Weapons rerouted. Engines overloaded briefly, then cooled. Enemy logic faltered. They had planned for resistance, not creativity. Where humans lost ships, they gained insight. Patterns emerged. Weaknesses revealed. An enemy dread ship fell when humans rammed it with disabled transports, filled with sensor ghosts. The attack made no sense, and that was why it worked. Still, the enemy pressed forward. At the center of their formation, the ancient weapon charged. A massive structure, surrounded by layers of impossible defense. Aelira felt it like a wound reopening. "That weapon cannot be reasoned with," she said. "It ends everything." Ethan studied the data, heart heavy. "We cannot destroy it from here," he said. Silence filled the command channel. Aelira turned to him, eyes sharp. "There is another way," she said slowly. She explained the truth. The weapon was ancient. Its core required manual alignment. It was built by a species that trusted no automation, no remote access, only physical control. A human idea, long before humans existed. Ethan understood immediately. Someone had to reach it. Someone had to disable it from inside. "No," Aelira said before he spoke. Her voice cracked for the first time. "You are not expendable," she said. "You are not a symbol." Ethan met her gaze, calm, resolute. "I am human," he said, "and humans finish what we start." He volunteered his ship, a small reinforced craft barely fit for combat. Alien allies protested. Human captains argued. Ethan listened, then spoke quietly. "If this fails, nothing else matters." The fleet reorganized around his path, creating openings, distractions, chaos. As Ethan's ship moved forward, enemy fire intensified. Hull alarms screamed. Systems failed one by one. Aelira watched helplessly as his signal weakened. Her queen's logic screamed loss. Her heart screamed something else. Human ships closed ranks behind him, protecting him with their lives. One by one falling away. Ethan's ship breached the outer defense. Energy tore at its frame. The stars blurred. He reached the weapon's surface, docking manually under fire. The ship shuddered violently. Inside, ancient corridors waited, dark and silent. Ethan stepped out alone, toolkit in hand. The door sealed behind him, cutting off retreat. Far away, the weapon reached critical charge. Stars dimmed. Space trembled. Aelira whispered his name across a channel that barely existed, and the galaxy waited to see if a single human could stop the end of everything. Inside the ancient weapon, time felt slow and heavy. Ethan moved through dark corridors lit by fading symbols. The structure vibrated like a living thing in pain. He followed the data Aelira had given him. Old designs, simple in concept, dangerous in scale. Everything depended on balance and alignment. The core chamber opened before him, a vast hollow sphere filled with spinning light. Energy streams crossed like rivers made of fire. Ethan felt fear then, deep and honest. Not fear of death, fear of failing everyone who believed in him. He anchored himself to a rail, hands shaking. The controls were not alien in the way he expected. They were mechanical, physical, imperfect. Someone long ago had believed flesh should decide fate. Ethan began to work, turning heavy rings by hand, redirecting flows with manual locks. Each movement sent waves of force through his body. His suit cracked, alarm screamed. But he kept going. Outside, the battle slowed. Human fleets pulled back as the weapon's energy spiked. Alien commanders watched their screens in silence. Aelira felt a shift. The weapon resisted, then faltered. Something inside it was changing. She whispered across the open channel, not as a queen, but as someone who cared. "Come back," she said softly. Inside the core, Ethan reached the final alignment. One last lock remained. It required full release. He hesitated, then pushed. The weapon screamed. Light collapsed inward. Energy folded into itself. For a heartbeat, the galaxy went dark. Then the weapon shattered, not with an explosion, but with silence. The ancient structure folded and vanished. Its energy consumed itself, leaving nothing behind. Enemy ships froze, systems failing. Their command network gone. Their certainty broken. Human fleets surged forward, not in rage, but in resolve. The enemy empire collapsed within hours. Without their god weapon, they were just another power. And powers fall when fear is gone. The galaxy watched in stunned quiet. No cheers. No celebration. Just understanding. Ethan was found drifting near the remains, his ship barely intact. Life signs weak but present. When he woke, the first thing he saw was light. Not harsh. Warm. Aelira stood beside him. No crown. No guards. Her eyes were wet. Something ancient and new mixed together. "You broke the impossible," she said quietly. Ethan tried to speak, failed, smiled instead. Days later, before councils and observers, Aelira did what no queen had done before. She removed her crown and placed it aside. Not in surrender, in choice. "I was bound by law," she said. "Now I am bound by will." She chose Ethan, not as protection, not as strategy, but as love. Across the galaxy, laws were rewritten, old classifications erased. Human status changed. No longer labor, no longer insignificant. Humans were recognized as a core species, not because they conquered, but because they endured. Ethan returned to Greyline, not as a ruler, but as himself. People did not kneel. They stood taller. The galaxy adjusted slowly, carefully. Empires watched humans with new eyes. Not hatred, respect. History recorded the moment simply. The galaxy learned too late. You do not marry a human for protection. You marry a human because resistance is pointless.